Hey y'all, it's Sabriyah Callis, your partner in finding and funding your new home. And today I want to have a real conversation with you, especially if you've been thinking about buying your first home, but you're not quite sure if you're actually ready. And listen, I get it. Buying a home is a big deal. And if you're anything like me, when I first bought my first place, you're probably asking yourself, how do I even know if I'm ready? Well, today's video, I'm going to give you 5 signs that you might be more ready than you think, and maybe a few things to work on if you're not quite sure if you're ready. So let's get started and break it all down. The first sign of readiness for home ownership may be that the fact that you're tired of renting. You ever just stop and look at your rent payment and think, where in the world is all this money even going? Month after month, year after year, you're handing over hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. And at the end of it all, you don't own a single square inch of where you live. And I'm not knocking renting because I've done it multiple times in my life. But sometimes it's necessary, right? But let's be real, after a while, it gets frustrating. You can't paint the walls the color you want. You can't upgrade your kitchen. Your rent keeps going up. And the landlord is the only person getting richer from your consistency and hard work in the matter. So when you own a home, that monthly payment is an investment in you. Every payment that you make builds equity, meaning you're slowly but surely increasing your ownership in something that's growing in value. And it's like planting a financial seed that gets stronger over time. And here's the thing, home ownership isn't just about having your name on a deed. It's about the options. It's about building something that you can pass down, borrowing against it if you need to ever in the future, or even turning it into a rental property later and creating the passive income for yourself rather than your landlord. So if you're tired of paying someone else's mortgage, maybe it's time to start paying your own. Sign number 2 that you may be ready to purchase a home is that your finances are stable or you're getting there, right? So let's talk about money for a minute, because I know this is where a lot of people start to second guess themselves. You don't need to be rich to buy a home. That's one of the biggest myths out there. Over and over, you need so much to put down in order to afford it. But what it does matter is having a sense of financial stability. And no, that doesn't mean perfection. I'm talking about steady income, something that's coming in on a regular basis, whether it's from a job, your business, or a reliable source of income. Now, all your bills are paid on time, right? Are you managing your expenses without feeling like you're drowning? That's a huge win. And it's showing lenders that you know how to handle your money, and that is just as important as how much money you make. And I always tell people this. Start where you are. Even if your savings account isn't where you want it to be yet, if you start putting aside $25, $50, even $100 a month, you're moving in the right direction. A small emergency fund is better than none, and it shows that you're thinking ahead. And let's talk about credit for a second. You don't need a perfect 800 score to qualify for a home loan. In fact, a lot of people get approved with credit in the 600s or even lower in some cases, especially first-time homebuyer programs. What matters more is your willingness to get educated and taking action and working with someone who understands your goals. And that's where I come in. We can build a plan that works with your financial reality. Let's get into sign number 3, because you know what you want and where you want to go. Okay, let's be honest for a second. How many of you have a Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com app on your phone right now? Put in a comment. How often are you scrolling that listings late at night, hard in your favors, picturing where you want your couch to go, or saying to yourself, oh, I love that kitchen? That's not just casual browsing. That's vision. That's you doing more than daydreaming. That's your mind starting to mentally move in. You're imagining possibilities, picturing yourself in a space that belongs to you. And that's huge. And if you found yourself kind of like driving through neighborhoods, looking at houses with fresh eyes, like, I could actually live here, what would the school districts be like? How is that commute from here? That's another clue. You're not just curious, you're visualizing your future. And let me tell you, clarity is a gift. Knowing what kind of home fits your lifestyle, what communities feel like home, what you don't want to compromise on, that gives you power. And it helps your realtor, your lender, your entire support team help you more effectively. You're not just starting from zero, you're already preparing mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually for that next step. Sign number 4 is one of the most important signs, and that is you're willing to learn the process. So stick with me. Let's dive into that just a little bit deeper. It can feel overwhelming at first. Mortgages, credit checks, down payments, inspections, contracts. Woo, it's a lot. I know it's a new language, and if you've never done it before, it's easy to think, I don't even know where to start. But here's the good news. You don't have to figure it all out by yourself. You just having the willingness to learn, that's it. If you're curious, if you're asking questions, if you've ever Googled how much house can I afford or what's a first-time home buyer program, you're already ahead of the game. And that's where people like me come in. I'm not just here to help you buy a home. I'm here to help you understand what you're doing every step of the way. We'll talk through things like how much you need to save. Hint, it might be less than you think. And what kind of loan fits your particular situation, whether you qualify for any down payment or closing cost assistance, what to expect from inspections, appraisals, and closing day. And if you're willing to learn, willing to ask questions, and willing to show up for yourself, then I promise you this whole process will feel less scary and way more empowering. Tonight, we're hosting a home buyer workshop webinar at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll link the registration details below. Listen, I'm glad you're still here for sign number 5, because guess what? This one right here, this is real. The biggest sign of all is that you're ready for stability and growth. And let's talk about what happens when you're no longer just thinking about where you live, but about how you want to live. When you're craving stability, not just a place to sleep, but a space that feels like yours. It's a space where you can actually breathe, grow, and plant roots. Maybe you're tired of moving every year. Maybe you want a place where your kids can grow up, where your pets don't need permission, or where you can finally paint the walls that bold color that you love without having to ask anyone for approval. This is the moment when you're not just thinking short term and you're thinking legacy. And that's what homeownership is really, really about. It's not just about the monthly payment. It's about building something that appreciates in value, something that you can borrow against again if life gets tough. Sometimes you just need something that you can pass on if life blesses you that way. That's called generational wealth. That's stability. That's freedom. And when you're ready for that kind of growth, you're not just financially, but emotionally and mentally. Home ownership becomes more than just a goal. It becomes a launch pad. If you're ready to stop renting uncertainty and start owning your future, then this might be your moment. And I'd love to have you join us by taking the first step by joining us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're hosting again a virtual homebuyer workshop webinar. If you've enjoyed this video at all, do me a favor, like, share, subscribe to the channel while you're here. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye now.